Howdy y'all, thank you for joining us today for this playthrough of Spider-Man Miles Morales from the Sinister Motives box. And what I do with these playthroughs is I take the hero deck straight from there, which if you look at my unboxing or if you know about the Sinister Motives, you know there's two decks in there. There's the Miles Morales Spider-Man and the Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider. And I like to take those decks, or any of the hero decks when they're brand new, and take them and don't change them at all and put them against Rhino, which is basically the starter deck in the core box. Now the only thing I do different is I basically do a randomizer to figure out what side scheme, because normally if you look at the Rhino one, it tells you to have the Rhino deck. Of course you got to have your standard mixed in there, but then it also tells you to mix in Bomb Scare. Instead, I just go ahead and hit a randomizer that I have, and the one that came up is experimental weapons, so that's what's going to mix in. And if you've joined me on this, sorry, or you already know how to play. I know this might be kind of boring because I typically go through the first round and at least do a little bit of teaching. That way, if somebody else is jumping on this and they don't know how this game plays, then they can basically follow along and see just from my playthroughs. So basically the way this is going to go is we're going to be going back and forth, starting with the hero phase and going into the villain phase. And our job is to basically knock Rhino out 2 times. Now it lets us know here at the bottom how many hit points Rhino gets. In his first stage he's going to get 14 hit points per player. And then his second stage, he's going to get 15 hit points per player. So our job is to knock him out before he either knocks out all the players, in this case solo, just us, or he pulls off his scheme. Which his scheme is, he is trying to break into a shield facility and steal vibranium. And we'll get how that is going to go about. But yeah, so basically we have to knock him out through both of his stages, or he has to knock us out, or pull off his scheme. And as you can see here, his scheme starts with 0 threat, but if he gets 7 threat on there per player, that's how he pulls off his scheme. One thing I just realized I forgot to shuffle in is the obligation, which starts with Miles Morales. We start on our alter ego form, and our starting hand size is going to be 6, and we start with 9 hit points. Give this a few more shuffles. All right. So we start off and we draw up our starting hand size, which is 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then at the beginning of the game, you get what's called a mulligan, where you can kind of go through your hand. Well, you can go through your hand, not kinda. You can go through your hand. You can discard as many cards as you want to, and then after you discard, you get to draw up to what your hand size was. So like in this case, my hand size is 6. So say I didn't want these 2 cards, I could discard them, draw up, draw 2 more basically. Normally though, I don't take my mulligan. No, I'm not going to take the mulligan. But yeah, normally I could discard that and draw another one, but might as well just use it as a resource. It is a wild resource. So with that, that is my starting hand, and we are good to go. Okay, one of the actions you could do on your turn is once per turn, you can switch forms between your hero and alter ego once per turn, like I said. So for instance, I'm in alter ego form. If I want to, I can switch my form to my hero form, but then that's it for that turn. So I'm going to go ahead and do that action first, which as you can see now changes the stats I have to, or stats and my abilities I have access to, plus my abilities down here. Another thing you could do during your turn is you could play cards from your hand. In order to play a card from your hand, it shows the cost of the card at the top, and you have to pay that much in resources. And the way you pay the resources is you discard the cards looking at the bottom, and when you discard the card, you get the resource that it shows at the bottom. So for instance, I want to play Surveillance Team here. So I have to pay 2 resources. So I could discard these 2 cards, and that pays the 2 resource cost to now put this into play. And now that I put this into play, it is a support, which means it's something that stays out there. And then it tells me here, it is a uses, which means I'm going to put counters on it, 3 Snoop counters. And what uses means is, if at any time those 3 counters are no longer on the card, then the card goes away. It even tells you that there's reminder text, but just in case, I've seen some cards that say uses and don't have the reminder text there, so just let you know that. And then, now in the future, as an action, which is another thing you can do during your turn, is multiple actions. As an action, I can exhaust Surveillance Team here and remove a Snoop counter, which is one of those 3 counters I'm about to put on there, and it can remove a threat from the scheme. Which, of course, right now, there is no threat on the scheme, so I'm just getting this ready to be able to be used later down the road. But there's the 3 counters on there, and then this goes to the side. I'm going to use another action to play another card here. It costs 1. Pay the 1 resource, and it puts this into play, which is an upgrade. An upgrade is just like a support, except the difference is an upgrade goes on to a character. In this case, upgrading Spider-Man here with this ability, the Power Within. And what this is this will sit on him, and usually it'll give you something. In this case, it says, as a hero response, which means I have to be in hero form, and as a response to something, which is after my hero uses a basic power, and we'll get to basic powers here in a second because I am about to use one, I can discard this Power Within, and I get to resolve Spider-Man's Venom Blast ability, which he has 2 abilities here, which we have to find a way, they're special, we have to find a way to trigger them. Well, this is one of the ways to trigger the one that says Venom Blast. So right now I'm just putting this upgrade on him, and it's waiting on me to trigger that response, which was to use a basic power. Okay, as another action, you can do one of the things that's already hinted at, which is use a basic power. Your basic powers are listed here on the left side. So what that's meaning is, if I want to, as a basic power, I could choose to exhaust Spider-Man to activate one of these basic powers. So say I wanted to thwart. I could exhaust Spider-Man and thwart the scheme and remove this much threat from the scheme equal to whatever his thwart number is. So like if I exhausted Spider-Man and thwarted for 2, we would look over at the scheme, and if there was any threat on the scheme, we would remove 2 threat from the scheme. Or I can exhaust him and attack a villain for 2 damage. Or with being attacked, I can exhaust Spider-Man and I could reduce the damage by defending and then reduce the damage by the number in the defense. And I'm going to go ahead and show on the other side. I cannot do this because I flipped him over already, but the other side has a recovery ability, and what that says is I can exhaust them to recover this many hit points up to my max. But I'm on 1, I'm full, so I can't recover anyways, and I'm on the other side, and I already flipped, so I can't flip back to the other side. So we're going to go ahead and activate the special ability of attacking, or our special power, our basic power, sorry, of attacking Rhino for 2 damage. So Rhino takes 2 damage. And then, remember, as a hero response, I'm in a hero form, and we see if I met the response here, which is after my hero used a basic power, which I just used a basic power to attack, I could discard Power Within and resolve Spider-Man's Venom Blast ability. So I discard Power Within and activate his Venom Blast ability, which is deal 2 damage to an enemy and then stun that enemy. So I'm going to do 2 more damage to Rhino. And then now he is stunned. And what stun does is he gets this card that says the next time this character would attack, discard this status card instead. So basically it just cancels out their next attack. I have these 3D printed up ones that I like to use, but that's the stun to remind me. Once you have no more abilities that you want to do or actions that you want to do, or you are just out of actions to do, you can go to your end phase. After all players have done their turns during that phase, you would choose to discard any cards you want to from hand. I want to keep this one because usually the alter ego cards are really good. And this one seems pretty decent. So I'm keeping that card in hand. And then you would draw up to whatever your hand size is. Remember, on the other side, in alter ego form, my hand size was 6. Now my hand size is 5. So that means I only draw up to 5. Since I kept this 1, that means I'm going to draw 4 more cards from the deck. 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to go ahead and go back over this one real quick, just to show. Be aware that some cards do let you discard them for multiple resources. So hence that one counts as 2 resources. After we draw, everyone draws up, everyone unexhausts and readies their characters and all their cards. And then we move to the villain phase. The first step of the villain phase is to accelerate their scheme. So you look here and it lets you know how much their scheme accelerates for. So in this case, he's going to accelerate his scheme by +1 threat per number of player. So 1 player solo means he's going to add 1 threat to the scheme. So now he's got 1 to his 7 that he needs per player. Next, the villain is going to activate depending upon what form a character is in. And he's going to activate upon each character in play. Hence, we're in solo play, so he's just going to look and see what I'm at and activate against me. The character he is activating against is in alter ego form, then he is going to scheme and add more threat to his scheme. If the character he is activating against is in hero form, then he will attack that hero. In this case, I am in hero form. So Rhino is going to attack me. So now I have to choose whether I want to exhaust Spider-Man and defend and reduce the damage he's going to do against me. But remember, he is stunned. So he's not going to attack me anyway, so there's no reason for me to defend. So I choose not to defend. So he's going to go attack, and then since, remember, when he's stunned, the next time he would attack, he discards the stun instead. So instead, he just discards the stun. Next, any allies, or not allies, sorry, any minions that Rhino had. Because normally when the minions come out, they are engaged with a character. In this case, since I am playing solo, I like to just put all the bad guy stuff in one area. But any minions who are in play and engaged against me would now activate. There are no minions in play, so they do not activate. So next is called the encounter step. In the encounter step, every character or every identity hero is dealt 1 encounter card off the top of the deck. And then once everybody is dealt 1 card, you have to activate the cards. So now we're going to flip over the card and see what encounter Spider-Man has to go through, which is what I just talked about, a minion. So this minion, Sandman, comes into play, and he would normally engage with me, and I would have to take care of him. I mean, I don't have to, but I would want to take care of him so that he's not scheming and attacking also. So in this case, he comes into play, and he also has this toughness thing, which says he starts with a tough status card. So I'm going to go ahead, and these are damage counters, but I like to go ahead and just put them on them ahead of time, saying that's their hit points, so it makes it easier for me to remember, just remove that much, and then they are KO'd. So if I want to take care of Sandman, the minion here, he has 4 hit points, and I need to hit him for 4 damage. But he also gets a tough status card. What a tough status card is a tough status card says the next time that character would take any amount of damage, whether it be 1 damage or 10 damage, instead this tough card absorbs all the damage and then goes away. So I need to do some little minor deke damage to him just to remove this tough status card thing from him. The last part of the villain phase is to pass the first player marker to the left. In this case, we're solo, so we do not have to pass. We're always the first player. And then that's it. We just go back and forth now until either I've knocked him out through both of his stages, or he has KO'd me, or he has pulled off his main scheme. So we're back to the beginning of my turn. My first action I'm going to do is one I kind of talked about, but not really, was this one. So if you have cards that just say action on them, you can use those as an action during your turn. So I'm going to activate this action, which says exhaust surveillance team, and remove 1 snoop counter from it, and remove 1 threat from a scheme. So I'm going to exhaust surveillance team, remove a snoop counter, and it lets me remove 1 threat from a scheme. There's a scheme with a threat, so I'll remove that threat from the scheme. Next, I'm going to activate Spider-Man's basic power by attacking, and I'm going to attack Sandman for 2 damage. But remember, he's got a tough status card, which says the first time he would take damage, he instead removes the tough status. So that absorbed that 2 damage. Next, I'm going to play another card I haven't talked about yet called an event. What an event is just a one-time action or one-time card you're going to play. But usually an action. Usually actions are also responses and stuff. But in this case, I'm going to pay 2 for this event, and it is an action, and I have to be in hero form. I'm in hero form. I have to pay 2. So I'm going to discard this card, which counts as 2 resources. And I'm going to keep this here for a second because when you read the action thing, it says, deal 4 damage to an enemy. And if I paid for this card using the reflex resource, which I did, resolve Spider-Man's Venom Blast ability. So that means I'm going to get to activate that special again. Well, first off, let's deal the 4 damage to an enemy. I choose Sandman, which is enough to KO him because there's 4 damage. And then now, since I paid for that with the reflex resource, I get to use my Venom Blast ability. And I may be wrong about that reflex thing. I get them real confused because I play a lot of Legendary also, and sometimes the wording's about the same since it's Marvel also. But now I get to activate that Venom Blast ability, which is deal 2 damage to an enemy and then stun that enemy. I'm going to choose to deal 2 damage to Rhino and stun him again. So 2 damage to Rhino. And stun him again. Next, I want to go ahead and bring out this. I don't think I really need it, but I like pulling out the alter ego cards. So I'm going to go ahead and pay 2 to bring out this support, which is just a support like the surveillance team, where it's just going to sit out here and I can use it. But notice this one can only be used when I'm in alter ego form. But it does let me exhaust him to remove 1 threat from a scheme with the least threat. So it's just like basically getting rid of a threat, kind of like the surveillance team, except it never goes away unless something tells me to get rid of this support or get rid of a support. After that, I've done all the actions I'm able to do or want to do. I have no cards in hand. So we're going to go to my end step. I have none to discard, so we're just going to draw to my hand size of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We unexhaust and ready all of our cards. We go back to the bad guy phase. He's going to accelerate the scheme for 1. I am in hero form. So Rhino goes to attack. Of course, he's stunned still, or he's stunned again. So instead, he just removes his stun. There are no minions. So now we go to the encounter. We deal ourselves an encounter card. And then now we do the encounter, which is Armored Rhino Suit is an attachment which will attach the Rhino. And it says here, as a force to interrupt, when any amount of damage will be dealt to Rhino, place it here instead. Then if there's at least 5 damage here, discard armored Rhino Suit. So kind of like Toughness, except instead of just absorbing, like, hey, I'm just going to do 1 damage and get rid of it, this has to absorb 5 damage before it goes away. So it's like basically giving him 5 more hit points. Boo. And just like with anything else, I'm just going to put this on here. All right, back to the beginning of my turn. Sorry, I was just cleaning that up, so it probably shifted a little bit. Okay, my first action is going to be to use the basic power attack and just do 2 damage, attacking Rhino for 2 damage, I mean. Remember, the first damage is dealt here, removing those. Next, I'm going to use the action to switch to my alter ego form. Since I'm in alter ego form, now I can do this alter ego action with Jefferson Davis, where it says I can exhaust Jefferson Davis, remove 1 threat from the scheme with the least threat, so I exhaust him, removing the only scheme we have, the 1 threat. Now I'm going to do this event, Double Life. It costs 1 to pay to do it, so I'm going to pay this 1, and just like it says here, well, 1, you can only play 1 of these per round, but as an action, I can change my form. If I pay for this card using a red resource, I can ready, or a strength resource. It might be physical. I can ready my identity. Well, I paid for it with a red, so it lets me change my form again. And then since I paid for it with a red, I get to ready myself. I'm going to choose to hold up. Actually, I'm not going to. Instead, I'm going to pay for Web Shot. I got another one in hand that I drew last turn. Paying 2 resources. And it's once again the same way. Deal 4 damage to an enemy. If I pay for this card using a reflex resource, which one of them was a reflex resource, it just says A, then resolve Spider-Man's Venom Blast ability. So I'm going to do 4 damage to Rhino, which this absorbs all of that, even though there's 1 more. It doesn't carry over because we have to wait for this to finish. Because it put all the damage there instead. But it does cause the force interrupt, which was now this goes away. And then now we get to activate the Venom Blast ability, which is deal 2 damage to an enemy. And then stun that enemy. I'll admit that's kind of, I did not expect this to kind of do that. I don't know if it's just I'm drawing that way or that's the way this was designed to keep going, but seems to be working. And then I'm going to do my basic power to attack again for 2. Since I'm unexhausted, I can do that. And then once again, I have no other actions to do. I mean, I could do this one, but there's no threat on the scheme. So with that, I'll discard. I have no cards to discard. So we're going to go back. So after the discard, we're going to draw up to our hand size of 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then ready all of our stuff. We're going to accelerate the scheme for 1. I am in hero form, so he will attack me. Once again, he's stunned. Pretty sure that was the last of those, though, so I don't know how many more times I can activate that Venom ability, but that Venom Blast, but there we go. That removes the stun. There are no minions in play, so we do ourselves an encounter card. We activate the encounter card. Ooh, well, if there's something to throw a wrench in the plan, that would be it. Yep, I got cocky because I had a card that would have let me look at the top 4 there and get rid of this. So what this does, oh, well, I got it in the glare I didn't realize was there, but what this card does is Shadows of the Past. So every character comes with an arch nemesis. And when Shadows of the Past comes out, it tells you, reveal your set-aside nemesis minion and put it in play engaged with you. Here's Prowler, so he's coming in play engaged with me, which gives him Stalwart, which I believe means he cannot be stunned or confused. I'll double check that, but I'm pretty sure that's what that means. And then when revealed, if I am in Ultra Ego form, I give him a tough status card. Well, luckily, I am still in hero form, so he's just going to come into play. He's got 5 hit points. And then we finish out the Shadows of the Past, reveal your set-aside nemesis side scheme, and put it into play. So his set-aside side scheme is tracking prey. It's going to get 4 threat added to it. And then when revealed, if I'm in Ultra Ego form, place 1 acceleration token here. Once again, I'm not in Ultra Ego form, I'm in hero form, so this is ignored. But what this means is, if this is still in play, whenever we go to that encounter phase, which is what triggered all this, I have to deal myself another encounter card. So I'm going to want to get rid of this side scheme. So we put this into play, and I didn't realize that glare was so bad. I am so sorry. See if I can get this up here. There we go. But, so I need to get rid of this, otherwise I'm going to have to do more encounters. Well, just when I thought it was feeling too easy. Well, we're still not done with Shadows of the Past. Shuffle the rest of your set-aside Nemesis encounter set into the encounter deck. And the rest of it, we'll talk about. Basically, it would have gained Surge, but the rest of it doesn't matter because it did not gain Surge. But yep, so he has 3 other cards. So like, every character has some cards. Every character, when you're playing them, is going to have a nemesis, a side scheme, and then some cards that get shuffled into the deck if that Shadows of the Past happens to hit, which it did. While I'm shuffling, I'll talk about it. I had this card, which basically would have let me look at the top 4 cards and get rid of a card like that, which I just figured the odds of me hitting it weren't going to be good, but, well, we hit it. All right, that should be enough shuffles there. And let's see if we can, we go back to the beginning of my turn. Let's see if we can do something about that. I will admit, usually in solo play, if Shadows of the Past is hit, I typically do not tend to do very well in that game. So I just wanted to double check. I knew I was I was right. I should know. I'm never wrong. Stalwart there. Yeah, it means he cannot be stunned or confused. So it means I'm going to have to take care of him the old-fashioned way. All right, I'm just going to look at something here real fast. I was basically just checking to see what his keywords were here. Because I have 2 of these global logistics. But I have this card that I can exhaust shield cards. So I was hoping he had a shield on the other. He was a shield on the other side. But, oh, he's shield. Hey. That That makes this a little bit better, I guess, because this was a shield deck. I should have mentioned at the beginning. I noticed it during the unboxing. This was a shield deck. And I was thinking, well, the Alter Ego cards are good, and this is good. I mean, Exhaust, being able to get a free removal of a threat. But because you don't get to choose where the threat's removed, kind of, I thought was just kind of weak. But being a shield persona, a shield thing, keyword, makes it to where cards can be activated with him, even if you're not in Alter Ego form. So, hence, I'm going to play Homeland Intervention here, which is an action. It costs 0. I can exhaust up to 3 shield cards I control and then choose a scheme. I remove 2 threat from that scheme for each card exhausted this way. These are both shield cards. So if I exhaust both of them, that means I can remove 2 threat for each from a scheme for each of these I exhausted. So that means I get to remove 4 threat from one scheme, which I'm going to choose that tracking prey so we can get rid of it. So there's the 4, and it's gone. So we were able to get rid of that at least. But now I cannot use these on anything else. And actually, I'm going to take one thing back on that. I'm only going to exhaust one of these and instead, so it would have 2 threat. Sorry, I know, I'm making this confusing. It would still have 2 on it, but instead, I'm just going to have Spider-Man exhaust and as a basic power thwart that and get rid of the 2 scheme that way. And I'm going to show why I need this untapped at the moment. Sorry I made that confusing, but that's all I did. I just basically, instead of exhausting him on that card to remove 2, I just exhausted him and thwarted for 2 instead. And it's because I want to play this global logistics. And what this is going to let me do is I can exhaust a shield card. So I need another shield card to exhaust. And then now I can look at the top 4 cards of a player deck or the encounter deck, discarding a number of those cards and put the others. Basically what I was going to do to make sure that Shadows of the Past didn't happen, because I had discarded one of those back in the past. But now I'm going to make sure, now I can't hit another Shadows of the Past, but it lets me set up that deck while I take care of Prowler. So I normally don't take things back unless game state hadn't changed. And game state hadn't really changed there other than, oh, I just would have done this instead. And we haven't seen anything from the decks yet. So we did that. I'm going to choose the encounter deck so we can look at the top 4 cards. And we can discard any we want and put them back. Wait, let me make sure it said that right. Yeah, I can discard any number I want and put the others on the top and or bottom of that deck in any order. So I wouldn't want to discard them because I don't want to make this deck thinner, because if this deck ever runs out, you have to give the main scheme an acceleration counter, which will make it pull off faster. Now, granted, the odds of it actually happening in this one, but we don't know. But for now, I'm just going to look at the 4 and make a determination there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So these are the top 4. It doesn't matter what order they're in, because I can discard them and put them back in any order. But I'm just showing you everything that was here while I make that decision. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and discard these 2. And this will make sense because really, I'm going to go ahead and talk about, when he goes to his stage 2, he's going to go look for this one anyways from his discard pile of the deck. So I might as well just put it in the discard pile so I can pull it out. This one, I really don't want to give the villain, our Rhino, +1 scheme and +1 attack. So we're going to discard those. And we're going to put these back on top. And we're going to put them in this order. This one going first, because I don't mind. I mean, I'm a little worrisome about it, but what this is going to do, it's going to attach to Prowler, because this will be my encounter card, whereas this will be the boost card, which we haven't got to see yet because he's been stunned up. But we'll talk about why I'm putting this here, and it's because there's nothing here at the bottom. But for now, we're going to put these back in this order. And I don't know why. That made me think of something. And I'm not going to go backwards. But well, let's do this first, and I'll talk about what I missed. I missed a trigger. I want to make sure I don't miss it this time. So, I'm going to go ahead and do Arachnobatics. Costs 1. So I'll pay the 1 there. And it basically just deals 2 damage to an enemy. If that enemy has a stun status card, deal 3 additional damage to it. If it's confused, deal 3 additional damage to it. So this could be a big hitter if you got them stunned and confused. Of course, none of the bad guys are stunned or confused. I'm just going to do 2 damage to Prowler. And then now I'm going to flip to my alter ego form. And this is what I forgot to do. Earlier I was just thinking of the way I was triggering things. But he has a response where it says that after I change to this form, which I just did, shuffle a Spider-Man card from your discard pile into your deck. I'm not going to consider it a mistrigger, but the way you know there are Spider-Man cards, you have the 15 cards that are part of your main deck that you have to have in there. And this card's been so good that I'm going to definitely shuffle it back in. I'm going to shuffle it back in. And I'm going to say I missed the trigger on the other one. I mean, I guess I could just go backwards and shuffle it in. I just don't remember if that was already in my discard pile, which I think it was. I mean, I guess I could shuffle this one in because we guarantee know that one was in there. Because I don't think I'm positive it may have already been in there. I can't take that chance. So I'm going to say that's a missed trigger. But, well, yeah. Because it's not a response. It's not a response that you have to do. It's not a forced response. I just, for some reason, chose not to do it like a dummy. So I'm not going to go back and it's a missed trigger. That should be enough shuffles there. We have no more. I'm going to keep this in my hand. So we draw up to our hand size. I have 1 in hand, so draw 5 new cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ready all of our cards. Accelerate the main theme or scheme. This time I am in alter ego form. So he is going to scheme. And now we're going to show what actually would have happened if he would have been stunned up all those times. So whether he is scheming or attacking, once the decision is made on what he is doing, they are dealt what's called a boost card. And you're going to take the top card from the encounter deck and you're going to flip it up and you're going to ignore everything about the card except for what's on the bottom there. And what you're looking for are tokens like this. And what that does is that adds to whatever they're doing. So in this case, he is scheming for 1. If this would have been the boost card, he would have schemed for 1 plus 2. That's why I put this back on top, because now he's going to scheme for 1 plus, there's no tokens down there, which means he only schemes for 1, which adds only 1 threat to the scheme. And I'm going to sidetrack here just a little bit. No, I'm not. There's something else that can happen that can be triggered from that boost. There wasn't none in the discard pile, so I wasn't able to dig them out. But there's a star, which is called a boost ability that can happen. Unfortunately, I just don't have a way to show that. But now, since he is done activating, now all the minions that are on me, they're engaged with me, have to activate. They're going to do the same thing that Rhino did. So if he attacked me, they're going to attack me. In this case, he schemed, so they're going to scheme. So he's going to scheme for 1 because he has a 1 scheme, but they don't get the boost card. So that means he just only schemes for 1. Now we have to do the encounter phase, which we already know what this card is because we put it on top. So this is going to attach to Prowler. Well, it attaches to the minion with the highest printed hit points. He's the highest printed hit points, so it's going to attach to him. And this would give him +2 attack and piercing. So let's hope I can knock him out. Which I don't know if I drew cards to knock him out. I hope I did. But this attaches to him. Let's really hope I can knock him out. Otherwise, that's going to hurt because that's... What piercing is if I had that tough status card on me to where the next damage that would be dealt to me, instead, just get rid of the toughness. Piercing says no. You're just going to take this damage and like it. Well, let's hope I can knock him out, because otherwise that's going to be 3, 4, 5, not including how much damage Rhino's going to do. So that's the encounter phase. So we go back to the front of the top of my turn. All right, first thing I'm going to do on my turn, I'm going to play web shooters here. Cost 1. And this gets the uses. This is an upgrade, so this goes on Miles Morales. It just gets counters just like this one. But it's 3 web counters. And when they're gone, they're gone. But what this lets me do is exhaust this if I'm in hero form. It lets me exhaust this, remove a counter, and I get to generate a wild resource. So basically I can spin this instead of discarding a card in order to pay for something. But I can only do it if I'm in hero form, which I was thinking about staying in alter ego form until I just realized I misread that. But why not? Let's go ahead and flip to my hero form. I'm going to use my basic attack power to attack Prowler, dropping him to 1. And that's basically kind of really what the minions become, especially your arch nemesis. When your arch nemesis comes out, it kind of just puts the game on pause, and you got to hope to take care of all that so that you can get back to taking care of the villain. All right, now I'm in hero form. I'm going to go ahead and try to bring, or I am going to bring out this support, the Sky Destroyer, which costs 3. I'm going to activate this, which is a hero resource. So resource means as I'm spending to pay for spending resources to pay for a card. So I exhaust web shooter and remove a web counter to get 1 resource. So there's 1 of the 3 I need. There's the other 2. So that's 3 to bring out the Sky Destroyer here, which is a support just like these. It is a shield support. But as a response, after I play a shield card, I can exhaust this to do 2 damage to an enemy. So pretty cool if I'm playing a bunch of shield cards, which is a shield deck. And then if not, we saw that some of those other cards say exhaust a shield card. So, seems good. Speaking of which, I'm going to play this Homeland Intervention again, or another Homeland Intervention, which says it's 0 to pay. As an action, exhaust up to 3 shield cards I control to choose a scheme. Remove 2 threat from that scheme for each card exhausted this way. Well, there's only 1 scheme in play, so I'm choosing Break-In. And I'm going to exhaust both of these shield cards. In this case, it doesn't matter if I'm not in alter ego form. I know I already did this before, but that just in case I didn't cover that, it's just checking to see if there's shield cards. So I'm not activating it for this. I'm just exhausting it, activating it with this card. So I exhausted those, which means I get to remove 1, 2, 3, 4 threat from a scheme. So I removed the 4 threat from this scheme. That plays that card, and then Sky Destroyer, as a response, said after I play a shield card, well, I just played one, so after I played one, I can exhaust Sky Destroyer and deal 2 damage to an enemy. So I exhaust it and finish off Prowler. Now, since he already got put in because of the Shadows of the Past, that means all these cards are in here now, so that means he could come back to haunt me, but we'd have to get back through this, or something would have to make him shuffle back in. After that, I have no other actions I can do or choose to do. So I'm going to keep this card in hand. And we're going to draw up to our hand size of 5. So draw 4 new cards. Oh, my web shot again. 2, 3, 4. And then that makes 5. Oh, 5. And then ready all of our cards. Back to the bad guys. We accelerate the threat, or accelerate the scheme. I am in hero form. And Rhino is not stunned this time, so that means he is going to attack me. Alright, I'm going to play a web shot here. And I'm going to go ahead and exhaust the web shooter. Remove the counter to pay for one of the resource. And let's pretend like this wasn't a reflex. Something else I'm going to teach here real fast. Notice this adds, that symbol is called a wild resource. It means it can count as anything when you are using it to pay for something. So if this wasn't a reflex, since this does say, if I paid for this card using a reflex resource, then that would mean that wild would count as that reflex resource. Whereas if it said, if you can only use this type of resource, then the wild, or if you could, if it checks to see if it is that type of resource, not a paid, then the wild doesn't count. That may seem confusing, but it makes sense when you see it in action, and if I see it pop up, I'll mention it. But I just wanted to bring that up. But either way, I got the reflex here, so we're gonna deal 4 damage to an enemy. And if I paid for that card using the resource that it just mentioned, I resolved Spider-Man's Venom Blast ability. So I did. So first we're going to do 4 damage to an enemy. Of course, I choose Rhino, which is enough to KO him off his first stage. So now it means we're halfway there. We got to take him out of his second stage. Well, when we've done that damage to him, now it gives him 15 hit points per player, so he goes to 15. But also, when this was revealed, now his damage goes up, but when this was revealed, it says search the encounter deck and discard pile for the break it and take inside scheme and reveal it. Shuffle the encounter deck. So we already saw, I discarded that, knowing it was going to have to come up. So here's the break it and taken. It's going to get 2 threat added to it. And then it says when revealed, place 2 threat added to it. Then when revealed, place 1 additional threat here per player. So it's going to have 3 threat added to it. And just like with the other one, that hazard icon means I have to deal another encounter card during the villain phase. I just realized I said that. I'm a dummy. I was like, wait, I'm an idiot. This would have been, I took care of it before we got there anyways, but this is actually the acceleration thing. And I mentioned that there, and I'll try to put it into the editing if I remember. But this means it was like this, as long as this is out, it's like this is on the main scheme, so it would have added more threat. I took care of it before that happened, but I just realized I'm a dummy, and I don't know why I saw that symbol and looked at it as different. But anyways, this is the one I was talking about. This is the one that if it's still here during that encounter step where we have to deal ourselves encounter cards, I'm going to have to deal myself an additional one. So we're going to try to take care of that. But we still got to finish this out now. So we finished all this, done the 4 damage to him, period. Now if I paid for this using that, activate Spider-Man's Venom Blast ability. So his Venom Blast ability is deal 2 damage to an enemy and then stun that enemy. So we're going to deal 2 damage to Rhino. And then we're going to now stun Rhino. Alright. Wasn't really going to play this one because I've been trying to hold on to it to get an ally out, but I want to kind of activate the Sky Destroyer, so I'm going to pay 1 for this field agent support. Here's the 1 I'm paying. And that brings out this field agent as a support. It uses 3 backup counters. It has a hero interrupt when a shield ally would take any amount of consequential damage, exhaust field agent, and remove 1 backup counter from it. Prevent 1 of that damage. We haven't gone over it yet because I haven't gotten an ally out. I've been doing everything pretty much myself. But normally what an ally is, you can get this ally, you can put them out. And you notice they have a basic thwart and a basic attack. Just like we have a basic thwart and attack. And what they do is if you have an ally out there is they can do the same thing you can. Thwarting for the amount of their thwart and attacking for the amount of their attack. Except notice they have these consequence stars in here is what those are called. So it means if they do that, they take that much damage. And this is their hit points. So this basically just prevents that, it reduces that damage down. So basically they stay up longer. And then notice they don't have a defense. It's because they can defend when something's attacking you. And they can defend for you, but they're just going to take it in the face. And I was trying to bring her out, but instead I'm just really playing her or using her as a resource to bring this field agent out, which is useless, except for it's going to let me trigger my Sky Destroyer here because this is a shield. Card. And remember, the response on the Sky Destroyer is, as a response, after I play a shield card, I played a shield card, I can exhaust Sky Destroyer to deal 2 damage to an enemy. So, deal 2 more damage to Rhino. I didn't think about it. I guess he's not a complete waste. I was like, man, I really don't like this. But actually, that's kind of cool because of the way, if you're playing those cards that let you exhaust a shield card to thwart and stuff, this field agent can be exhausted. So I might relook at those. They're a little bit better than I was just now thinking. But anyways, a side note there. Spider-Man is now going to thwart that breaking and taking, or taken, for 2, removing 2 threat from that scheme. I'm going to activate Surveillance Team, which removes a counter, or exhaust Surveillance Team. Using this action, exhaust Surveillance Team, remove a counter to remove 1 threat from a scheme. So we get rid of that breaking and taken. So we don't have to do that extra encounter. And I was thinking about going into my alter ego form. But he is stunned. So it means I wouldn't have to take any damage. Whereas if I go to my alter ego form, he will scheme. The reason I'm thinking so hard on it is because if he schemes, if I go in alter ego form, he schemes, I could hit a huge boost there. And then my encounter card could be, there's 2 of them in the deck that says he schemes, and I could literally lose the game. Whereas right now I just play it safe, and I think I just play it safe and slowly but surely just hope to take him down. So no reason to just play it safe. So we're going to go to the end step. I'm going to keep this card in hand. So we draw up to our hand size of 5. So we draw 4 new cards. 1, 2, 3, 4. That gives my hand size 5. We ready all of our cards. He accelerates the scheme for 1. I am in hero form. So Rhino will attack, but since he's stunned, instead he just becomes unstunned. Now we go to the encounter step, deal ourselves an encounter card. And it's Stampede. When revealed, if I'm in alter ego form, this card gains Surge. And what Surge means is, basically it makes sure something happens. So Surge means discard this, deal myself another card. But we are in hero form, so Rhino attacks me. And if I get damage from this, I become stunned. Well, he's going to attack me anyways, that means. I can defend and reduce the damage by 2, but he's still going to do damage to me then because he's got a minimum 3. So if I'm going to take the damage, I'm just going to take the damage. So I'm not defending, so 3, and now we boost it. 4, 5, so he does 5 damage to me. Taking my first hit. Taking me to 4. And then because I took damage, I am stunned. So that means the first time I would attack him, whether it be from the basic attack power or doing that attack card like I just drew, instead I would just get rid of the stun. And that was the encounter step. So now we go back to the beginning of my turn. All right, well, let's go ahead, and so that we can play that 1 card, we're going to attack Rhino for 2, but because I'm stunned, that means just like when he attacks and gets rid of the stun, I do the same thing, so the stun goes away, but I am still exhausted. I'm going to play that web shot, which says, Well, I'm going to pay for it using this web shooter, which gives me a wild resource. So that's that reflex I need in order to pay this. And then there's the other one I'm paying. But lets me deal 4 damage to an enemy. And then since I paid with that wild resource, it is paid. So that means it is a reflex resource. I get to do my Venom Blast ability also. So we're going to do 4 damage to Rhino. Taking him to 7. And this one's been a long one. But now we get to do the Venom Blast ability, which is deal 2 damage to an enemy and then stun that enemy. So we're going to do 2 damage to Rhino. And then stun him. I'm going to bring out an ally. We're going to bring out Ghost Spider here. She costs 3. There's the 3. Says I can only play her if I control a Web Warrior card. Spider-Man is a Web Warrior card. So I can play her. And like I said, she's just basically an ally that gets to attack or thwart. She has 3 hit points. She'll take 1 consequence damage for doing either of those actions. And then as an interrupt, when she leaves play, I get to search my deck for an identity-specific event and add it to my hand. So I could go get one of those web shots. But of course, they're all in my discard pile now. So unless I can shuffle them back in. But she does come into play as an ally. Just going to switch these. I was seeing if I could just defeat Rhino this turn, but apparently not. But I will have her go ahead and attack Rhino for 2 damage. Taking him to 3. But like I said, she has a consequence star there, so that means she takes 1 consequence damage for doing that. But remember, I have a hero interrupt here, and I am in hero form and an interrupt. So it says when a shield ally... Oh, never mind. Well, that's fine. She can take the damage. I didn't realize she actually wasn't a shield. Never mind. This would have let her prevent it, but it doesn't. So I did that right. And I could get rid of this. Get rid of the threat, but right now I have Rhino beat on the next turn. Or I should, because these both guys should be able to attack him. We don't know what the encounter card is going to be. So I'm just going to go ahead and move to my end phase. I have no cards in hand. So I get to draw 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I mean, yeah. Unless the encounter thing does something, I should be able to play a shield card to do 2 damage, 2 damage, 2 damage. So we have enough to knock him out. Let's just see what the encounter card's going to do. So we go back to the beginning of their turn. Of the villains. Use my pronouns. It accelerates the scheme for 1. Go into 3 threat. I am in hero form, so he will attack me. He is stunned, so instead of attacking, he just becomes unstunned. Now we go to the encounter phase because there's no minions. We do ourselves an encounter card. Let's see what the encounter card is. It's I'm Tough. When revealed, give Rhino a tough status card. If he already has a tough status card, this would gain Surge and we would do something else. But he does not have a tough status card, so he gains Tough, which means the first damage dealt to him, that absorbs it. But that should be enough because now we go to the beginning of my turn. Oh, just realized I forgot to ready all my guys after I drew up. Sorry, I'm used to playing so many other games that ready are at the beginning of the turn. But yeah, so we will just use Ghost Spider to attack Rhino for 2. He has Tough, so he takes no damage. She takes 1 consequence damage. I will exhaust Spider-Man to attack Rhino for 2. Taking him to 1. And because I just do stuff just to do everything I can, I'm going to pay 1 to bring out that other web shooters that I drew. Putting 3 counters on it. And because I did like this card when I saw it, because I'm definitely going to be putting it in any Justice decks I play, I'm going to play Monica Chang here. There's 2 of my paying 1 from the web shooters. It ain't going to matter. I'm not going to get to do all this stuff on it, but I'm just doing it just to do it. That should pay for Monica Chang, which brings her into play, which is going to put 2 hit points on her. She has a response that after she enters play, I get to search my deck, hand, and discard pile for a copy of Surveillance Team Support and put it into play. And then I get to place 1 snoop counter on each surveillance team I control. Now that's even better than I thought, because that means even the one I put into play is going to get another one. Because yeah, we're going to put her into play. Sorry, because I'm so zoomed in. I'm taking up a lot of space here, but it don't matter because when I do all this, Sky Destroyer is going to knock him out, but because there's a surveillance team. So I get to put this into play, which is going to put 3 counters on it. And then her thing said now, because it says, put that copy of surveillance team and support and put it into play, period. Now I place 1 snoop counter on each in play. So, boop, boop. Man, that's really cool. I really like that because I always kind of like these surveillance teams, but I normally don't play with a bunch of them. I usually just play with like 1 in the deck maybe. With her in the deck, I would probably play with more of them. Anyways, I'm just putting this down. It don't matter. I'm just going to make a mess here. Because I don't even get to trigger anything. I guess I should have. Well, no, because I would have knocked that out of the play, but whatever. Puts this into play. Now that we've finished out her thing, we have a response here that says after you play a shield card, exhaust Sky Destroyer to deal 2 damage to an enemy. She was a shield card, so I exhaust this to do the last damage to Rhino. And knock him out. So that was a lot longer than I expected, but way cooler than I expected. He didn't really feel like my play style. But I did like the shield team combos. I had just built a shield deck, so I'm probably going to build something similar to this. I'm curious if my shield deck was going to do the same things. I don't know. We didn't have very many cards left in deck. But anyways, that was a long one. I'm probably going to take a little break and then go straight into the Ghost Spider one and try to get that one done. But thank you for watching and have a great day.